push back.
All right, and we are live. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another live stream with the Headphone Show. And today's, of course, is going to be a giveaway for the HiFiMAN Sundara. Just going to hold that up, see if you can see that. It's not this Sundara. It's going to be a new one. Yeah, let us know how the audio levels are, guys. And we'll adjust accordingly.
Morning.
I see lots of people in the chat, which is awesome.
Yeah, lots and lots of people.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. So I figured today what we would do is just do a basic Hangout Q&A session, and then at the end of the stream, what we're going to do is we're going to do the giveaway. Guys, if you haven't signed up yet for the giveaway, definitely do so.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we'll be, I guess, taking signups all the way until the end of the stream. The one consideration, of course, is that this is only for North American. The giveaway is only for North American viewers. I know there are some folks not from North America who may have signed up, but yeah, if that's the case, we'll try and figure something out. But in general, this one is just for North America, and we'll do ones for folks in other places in the world afterwards. We're actually planning on doing one giveaway per month, or something around that. I don't know if it's exactly going to be from or exactly going to be one giveaway per month, but more frequently. And we did a few last year, but I think this is going to be a regular thing, and might as well kick it off with the Sundara. So first, let me just actually ask Tyler, how you doing, man?
It's good. Been a busy couple weeks. I know you've been super busy too, but yeah, other than that, like it's just been chaos a little bit, right? Like it seems like there's no time.
seems like a bit of a minute since we've done a live stream, because I don't think we did one last week. For anybody who's unaware, we have been doing a big move to a new studio and a new office, which is going to be fun to film from. But moving is always time consuming, and so that's why the shelf back here is a little bit bare. And many of the fun products have been moved, or are in the process of being moved. I see you're about to find a question.
Yeah. So people keep asking how to sign up. So if you just go to
it's headphones.com/pages/giveaways.
Yep.
And that's how you I guess it'll run you through the process. But actually,
I'm gonna just create a link and then
create a link. I think I actually posted it on Twitter as well. So if you haven't seen it yet,
go.
And
link. It's probably gonna get buried in the chat, but I'll post it in the chat and then and paste.
Ouch! Only Americans. I know a lot of folks from other places were a bit upset that it was only for North American viewers. So it's not just Americans. If you're in North America, that's
North America. It's
North
Canada,
America,
U.S.
It's funny because a lot of people will be. I see this in the comments all the time. People are surprised at my pronunciation of certain things like timbre, and then they say, "Wow, I can't believe." I can't believe that an American would say it that way, and then not realizing that I'm not American. Like we're not Americans. I mean, you are, but I'm not, and a number of other folks.
I'm close.
Are not. Yeah, you're close. I mean, are we just like Seattle North, or Canada
or,
South?
or I would like to think we're well, I don't know. Seattle's a unique beast, so I'd almost not want to associate too much with either or, right?
Yeah,
some people might get offended.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. There's a few countries who are part of North America, so
yeah. But yeah, no, things are good. How's the new office? Obviously, I haven't been able to.
Yeah, we'll have to get you up. Well, when that's possible.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I mean, right now it's just in the setup phase. We don't really have the vision yet for what it's going to look like, in its completion. But we're working on that. But the way that it is right now is there's sort of like a main office, and then there's like a studio section that's in a different room entirely on the same floor.
Nice.
So the studio area is kind of what I'm setting up. I realized
Very cool.
unfortunately that like as soon as I started like filming in there, like there's because it's downtown, there's construction everywhere. I was like, oh no, this is gonna come through, isn't it? Um,
You get
which
those sound dampening panels and
yeah,
the
we got to figure that out.
soundproof
Yeah,
curtains.
it's pretty echoey. Actually, with the RE20, I'll be using the RE20 in there, just because yeah, it's gonna help with getting rid of the room tone as well. But yeah, and also we have to set up the backdrop a little bit nicer. I know a lot of people like the bamboo. It's that's where
Yeah,
Odyssey
bamboo is
headphones
really
are made
nice.
from.
I like the bamboo. Yeah.
uh, but yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, guys. So why don't we start? Just if anybody has any questions at all, just about anything, feel free to drop them in the chat. We do have the super chat function in case we miss it and you really need to get it answered, because chances are, we might miss something. But I'm gonna start it off just by, I guess, diving in with question about Sundara versus HE400i. That's a very straightforward Sundara from me. I don't know have you heard the 4XX, not the 400i, right?
I've heard the 4XX, not the 400i. Yeah.
I want to get the 400i 2020 in, because that, even though I know it's 2021, they.
I mean, you're not gonna update every year, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe they do. I don't know.
See, okay, this is the thing. What do you think? I I wonder about, how there's, especially for planars, right? There's always revisions that get done,
Yes.
and then there's all this drama about like, what revision is it? What year are we on?
Mm-hmm.
Would there be any reason for manufacturers to not just go with model years, like the way cars are for headphones?
I
Or is
think
that
makes
bad
sense.
for the consumer? I don't know. Like maybe that's bad.
Well, I don't know. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think it makes sense, right? I mean, why would you not? Because it might not. Maybe nothing changed. Maybe it's just the newer year. I mean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, well, it doesn't. It's not really an issue for cars.
Yeah, that's fair.
The analogy does like degrade
Yeah.
a little bit. Like it's not a perfect analogy for many reasons.
I would say materials, right? Used, right? Because that's a factor. Like what maybe they switched manufacturers for the pads or
Yeah,
what have
that's
you, or maybe the
often.
materials got changed,
Yeah.
and that's actually a much bigger deal than like say new car tires. I mean, that is a big factor. I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe there's just different tires. So maybe we can dissociate.
Yeah, well, and it
That's
depends what
effect.
gets changed too. But like, so for
Yeah.
example, the Odyssey stuff in 2016, I believe they did a massive overhaul. And so there's the pre 2016 and the post 2016, but then even post 2016, there's been a lot of revisions too. So, and obviously with the HiFiMAN Sundara, the headphone we're giving away today,
Yeah.
there's the 2020, 2020 revision. It actually happened in, I want to say it happened in 2019, or it could have even happened earlier.
Yeah.
It's just that stuff didn't get to people until 2019. But people have been calling it the 2020 revision. Saw Olive's video on that, which is
Yeah.
just so you guys know, that's it's not
Hey, Marius, cup of coffee for you. Resolve.
oh, thanks, dude. I just saw it just showed up. Yeah. There's a bit of a delay, so we might not get to it right away, but we will get to it. Yeah, thanks, Marius. I do enjoy coffee. In fact, I need to get some more this morning. But yeah, just for anybody who saw that video of the sound demo of the Sundara 2020, that is not at all what it sounds like.
Focus. Why are you not focusing on this?
It's
What's it
because
doing?
your camera's not good enough.
Right. It's like I'll focus on your hand. I'll
He has
focus on
literally-
everything but this thing.
He has literally the best camera for video.
God damn it! It keeps focusing on.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Maybe I'll get real close. Maybe I can block it, and then we can. Here we go.
I thought Sony's supposed to have the best autofocus.
Well, it's focusing on. Now it's like fuck you. I'm not focusing. Excuse my language. It's
That's
like,
okay.
F
It's
you,
a live
I'm not-
stream, dude. It's a live stream.
Anyways,
Nobody watches these after the fact.
Now it's doing that thing where it's stuck on her now. I need to.
Yeah.
Jesus.
She's the more attractive subject. No, I'm just kidding. That's a terrible thing to say. I see Metal
There you
571 in the chat. How's it going, Metal?
I was showing my coffee that I have
There we
today
go. Look at that.
is there. It is. It loved her for some
Coca-Cola
reason.
coffee.
Yeah, my wife bought these. They're not, I mean, I remember being a kid in like middle school and in like freshman year of high school and like
Yeah.
doing that, like having coffee and Coke and mixing it. I remember as a kid doing that for some reason. I
Yeah.
think it originally started as a dare and then it turned into like, this actually doesn't
Hey,
taste bad.
yeah,
But
I can see that.
it's unique. It's definitely, I don't know if I'd go out and buy them a lot, but
I I need to try. Speaking of coffee, I need to try Starbucks from Seattle.
oh man, the
I'd
bourbon
like go to
one.
that actual,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
like because I know it's not like we have Starbucks here, but it's not the
The
same.
premier one, like the I can't remember what they call it. That's like
It's
the
like,
special one. Yeah.
yeah, apparently it's like the difference between Guinness everywhere else in the world and
Yeah.
Guinness in Ireland. It's a
Yes.
different thing.
I can confirm this because that's where I meet Ant all the time. Was we go to the one at the
Yeah,
actual headquarters. We go to the headquarters Starbucks and
yeah,
meet up.
yeah.
And
I've seen it, but I never went in. Yeah,
the bourbon one, the bourbon barrel aged one, cold brew is like
yeah. It sounds interesting. I see some more questions here. Would you consider doing a review of the Monolith M1060C Open?
I have it right here.
What is the wait?
I have it.
M1060C
Yeah, I'll go
Open?
get it 1 second.
Okay, in the same price bracket as
It's a
Sundara and
mod,
very
isn't it?
capable.
It's only a mod.
I probably won't be doing a review of that one, just because reasons. I mean, if I get one in, then I would probably review it. But from what I know about that headphone, probably not.
It's a M1060 that you remove the cups on and you put this mod
Oh,
on.
I see. Okay, it's a
Put
mod
the
that you do the M10. Yeah,
and
I
you
mean that was sort of the thing when it came out.
yeah
It was a modder's headphone, I believe.
yeah.
So it's a big question of do you
And I think
review
I
it
have
stock or do you review it modded?
yeah,
Probably
and
modded, I would say.
probably modded. And then I have the
Yeah.
Odyssey pads on there too, leather
Yeah.
pads.
Yeah. Cost Porta Pros, yay or nay? I say yay, but it depends
Those
on.
right here too. It's
Tyler
like
just has everything.
it's like people know. And now
Yeah.
my camera's like, F you, I'm not focusing again. I wonder if I have it set to like a certain
Just
point for focus.
Just set it to manual and
I
like
need to set it to wide.
focus
I think.
peak on your yeah.
Excuse the mess. Say hi to Ninja Turtle.
It'll focus well on those.
Yeah.
All right. What
That's
do
on mine.
planar magnetic headphones sound like? I have Bluetooth headphones, but not planar magnetic ones. Here's a good question. So, what do planar magnetics sound like? We actually did a video on that on the channel on the difference between planar magnetic headphones and dynamic driver headphones. So, if anybody is unaware, dynamic driver headphones are otherwise known as moving coil headphones, like the ones we're wearing right now. Same with Tyler. That's more the traditional style you might find with Bluetooth headphones. There are now some Bluetooth planar magnetic headphones like the Mobius and the Panda and the Penrose, but yeah, generally it's all been done with moving coil transducers. The difference is that a moving coil takes a diaphragm that's more of like a cone or a dome shaped thing, and there's a voice coil behind it, and this is how you create the pistonic motion for the diaphragm, and it's basically it's a magnetic signal, electromagnetic signal, and then with a planar magnetic, you have a diaphragm that's sort of flat between. Well, sometimes they're single-sided, sometimes they're double-sided, or sometimes they're even asymmetrical. But there's magnets on one or both sides, and so the diaphragm is then immersed in that magnetic field, and the trace is on the diaphragm itself, and that's how you create the pistonic motion with the planar diaphragm. And it's interesting because there are advantages and disadvantages with both.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, so instead of having a voice coil, I see somebody else say that, instead of having a voice coil behind it, it's actually the trace, the conductive trace is on the diaphragm. So from my understanding, the one advantage of a moving coil transducer is that you do get basically a primary driver resonance that you can then control, and then that's one of the ways that you can sort of tune bass. Whereas with planar magnetics, you don't have that. At least it's not in the same way. And so that's often why you see planars having more linear bass. This isn't a conversation I've had with Matt Economist. But yeah, I don't want to get too into that. But basically, each has advantages and disadvantages. And so to describe the differences in the sound a little bit, for dynamic driver headphones, you often get what people describe as a more natural timbre. Now, I think part of that is because people are used to hearing dynamic driver headphones more commonly than planar magnetics, even in speakers. And so there's just sort of like oh, that's what stuff's supposed to sound like association there. And the other side of it is that planars do better for instrument separation most of the time. And so there's they're a little bit more controlled, a little bit tighter, especially for control during busy passages. Planars will generally do better there. And then also at the very upper high crazy end, they do also do better for detail and like the overall sense of image clarity. But where dynamic driver headphones often win, in fact, in most cases, apart from some unique ones in the high end, the dynamic driver ones generally have a better sense of punch and slam and impact that you get, and so it's often a trade-off. I mean, people talk about that as like being macro dynamics. So and also I think the imaging is generally better on dynamic driver headphones as well. Not always, but that's a common trend as well. I don't know. Tyler's got the best headphone.
It's excellent, and I wouldn't buy it.
It's also very expensive.
Yeah. I agree. I also think it comes down to and is the like the preference of a thing too. Like I think there's also that, like some people, we talked about this, like the dynamics versus planar, right? Like some people just prefer dynamic sound and they won't, like for whatever reason, like I'm kind of more of that way, I guess. Where
sorry, I just see David Miller.
Thank you very
Thanks a lot.
much.
Yeah, it's great to hear. Thanks for your support.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's right.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that, and that's just something that you can also fall into, like a dynamics versus not versus, but just dynamics for planar. You'll lean usually one way or the other a lot of times, like even slightly. Like I like both, but I think I prefer dynamics.
Yeah, I mean, even like the more I compare, the more I listen. There are certain things about dynamic driver headphones that I love, and then I go to a planar and I'm like, wow. and then I realize, wait, no, but I want this extra thing from the dynamic. So like, I really do think it's worth having one of each, just for the different type of presentation.
There's no one headphone to rule them all.
So like, and this is the interesting thing, I think, because, I talked about instrument separation and planars, but like the other key element of that is like, if you compare music that doesn't have a lot of busy passages, so just like, imagine just like a single instrument line or instrument thing. It's not like there's any immediate advantage to the planar as far as what we might call detail is concerned, because you can have dynamic driver headphones like this one, or like the one Tyler's wearing, or even go up to the high end, like the Verite, the Utopia, that sort of stuff, where the sense of micro detail and micro dynamics is like just as good. HD 800S is another great example. Where that sense of detail is really, really good. It's only when you start to have that question about like instrument separation and control during busy passages and all that stuff that the differences start to become a little bit more noticeable, I think. So it might also be that it depends, like how much you notice it or how much you'll care.
I think that's
dependent on the music.
How much you care is also, and then also how much experience you've had listening to things too. Like I actually was thinking about that the other day. Yeah. If you're just listening to Cost Porter Pros all the time, you're not gonna. There's certain things you're gonna miss just because of the nature of that headphone, the capabilities, technicalities, that kind of thing. And I don't want to sound like I'm gatekeeping in saying that, but like there's factors, right, like that allow for that. And then also as you listen more and more, and if you really start like honing in on things or listen to the same track over and over, and I guess train your ears, you'll start to pick up things more.
And that like, so for example, when I was listening to the Drop Panda, I was doing the review of that, it did demonstrate something, and to a certain extent there are a number of other planars that do this as well, but it did demonstrate something interesting about the perception of detail, that you can have something that sounds, as Kryn calls it, blunted, and where like the trailing ends of tones just feel lopped off, but still have some sense of clarity because of instrument separation advantages. Yeah. So, and control during busy passages and stuff, and that sort of sense of tightness, which technically, I mean, I think people can associate that with detail, if that's what they're picking up on. But if they don't have the frame of reference or the experience with what the more resolving, let's say, micro detail stuff is, then that might be missed. I think I was like that as well with with a number of planars, like, way back, where I wasn't even picking up on that over damped quality that can sometimes happen. Because that's the other thing with planars, is that it's really tricky to tune them, especially closebacks. And because of what, the ortho wall and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But the way that they do this is they do certain acoustic damping and tricks to try and get the frequency response in line, and that can have a negative consequence on what we call technical performance. Actually, and just lastly on that subject, what we're calling here detail and technical performance, that's all just subjective experience stuff.
Yeah.
There are acoustic properties that exist in headphones that might contribute to a sense or an experience in some way. But it's not like you can just like turn the detail slider up on your headphone. Right, like you can do certain things acoustically, and then those might be experienced as detail. So yeah, I think that's a lot of it has to do with damping and the acoustic treatment and all the rest of this stuff. Sorry, that was a long-winded tangent. I wanted to get more into the chat here. Focal Clear /MG versus the MFO Tour.
That's tough. I would say technicalities.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I can't speak on the MG. But comparing the Clear to the Auteur, the Clear's more detailed. I don't know what you think, Tyler.
I agree. I would say the Clear is probably not a more technically capable headphone.
Yeah.
But the Auteur sounds more natural.
Yeah, I can go with that. And also the Auteur has a noticeably bigger soundstage. So if that's I mean, the Auteur is my favorite tuning of all ZMF headphones. But actually, one of the things I never got a chance to properly try was the Auteur off of like a really high-end tube amp. And this is one of the reasons why I want to get another Auteur in and try it off of, an Amps and Sound amp or something like that. Just because like that experience with that amp, it was like every headphone that worked well with it, I was like, oh man, this is amazing.
Oh yeah, man. I did that actually recently with the and this is gonna be controversial for some people, but I have the May in right now from Hollow Audio, and I was like, I had that kind of dude, it's massive. It demands such a presence, or it demands such a it's there. It's like, okay, I'm here, pay attention to me. And I was like, holy smokes, like I think I'm also using like super top of the line stuff with the chain, right? Like, so I'm here, like you can actually start to hear those differences, but as you but they are little, they're slight, like, you know what I mean? Like, and you tend to exaggerate them ever so much just so you can like explain what you're hearing. But it did make a big difference. Like I used it on my bottlehead crack, and I ended up staying up way too late because I was like switching headphones on my bottlehead crack with the May. I was just like, oh, this is amazing. And I went to HC100s, I went to all my ZMFs, and I was like, just kept swapping around headphones and listening to music and just hearing those little differences. And I had the Cord TT2 here as well. And then the Shit Bifrost 2. And I was doing a comparison with those, and I was like, it's crazy when the Bifrost 2 sounds kind of damped.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's like the way I would explain it, I guess. It's like, it just.
Sorry, I just see Bob Force sent us some more coffee money. Thank you, Bob Force. Guys, you guys can use this for us to answer your specific questions. You guys are just being too kind, which we appreciate, but that's really what it's there for. We get a lot of people asking us, like, how can we support the channel? And really the best thing you can do is just subscribe and stay engaged and hang out in our live chats. But we appreciate it as well. We will get lots of coffee with that. Ellen Rick says, I'll send you my Stratus and Auteur. You'll love it. Just don't tell Tyler or Marcello.
I saw that, Ellen Rick. I thought we were friends.
It's actually funny. I mean, I was trying out a lot of recently I was trying out a lot of the Felix audio stuff. And that's also really quite nice. So, now that I'm into the whole tube world with Amps and Sound and, trying out some of the Felix audio stuff, and obviously the ZMF Pendant, which is Amps and Sound. So like I'm definitely on the train of thought where it's like once you get into the higher end for sources, it starts to make sense that, it's no longer about value and price to performance, sure, but like the differences start to be more noticeable at the higher end. And if you just want the most basic kind of like does all you need kind of setup, you can get that for like $300 pretty easily, right? And get something really good. But then when you start getting into the higher end stuff, disregarding like measurements and all that stuff, like when you actually hear it, especially with tube amps, the differences really start to matter.
Gold Planar or Ananda?
Ananda.
Ananda. Yeah.
Ananda.
Ananda.
I mean, actually, like, to be fair, like when I EQ'd the Gold Planar, it sounded pretty good. Still not as detailed as the Ananda. Like it still had that sort of hazy mid range, but after EQ, the Gold Planar did sound. It was really enjoyable because it did have the extra sense of depth there to it, and it had a little better sense of punch than the Ananda as well. Mm-hmm. So even though the bass is still sort of this lifeless thing, you know what was funny about that actually was that, so after I did my review, a lot of people were sort of critical of that, said I was too critical of it. And then I think the only other reviewer that I know of, I mean, I know a number of other reviewers have done it, but the other one that I read was Crin's. And it was interesting to see that he found many of the same. I don't think we like lined up perfectly because we often have slight differences, but he noticed a lot of the same things that I did. But I still think that the big reason why there's a lot of variation in impressions from other reviewers is because of the pads being different and making a difference as far as the tuning is concerned. So they wouldn't have had the same issues necessarily that I did. Because I saw even the pads that they physically looked different. They had sort of more of a D shape, and the ones that I had were just perfectly oval. So I think that unit variation counts for a lot.
Well, and I only had the single sided, so I didn't even bother even talking about it really.
Yeah.
And it
but
was
actually,
like
that could have been also pretty good. Like the single sided, depending on the pads and whatnot, right? Like single sided versus double sided, I don't think there's as much of an advantage as certain.
I agree. I think there's just going to get a little more power right back and forth, but then at the same time, I personally didn't like it enough to even bother.
Sure, yeah. But it really depends. Like it depends on the implementation because there are more parameters than just single versus double. Because the Abyss stuff is all single sided, right? So and that stuff has crazy slam and crazy detail. So it isn't inherently better. It's just one parameter that they can change.
Yeah.
Even though there are examples. Well, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say 3 questions came up with Super Chat. So first was favorite coffee.
You go first.
I was gonna say my favorite coffee right now is usually I do black coffee, but I've been on a dirty chai kick lately. So
you dirty chai.
Dirty chai.
I really like this coffee that I would get from Whole Foods. Don't judge me. Called Allegro or Allegra, and like one of my issues with a lot of the coffee that we get that comes from Canada, actually, not the beans, but the companies from Canada,
the roasters.
Yeah. Is that they tend to prioritize this like overly acidic kind of coffee, which is not my kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe some people like that, but it really is not my jam. Like there's everything from Starbucks to JJ Bean to all kinds of stuff here where I live, coffee shops
Hortons?
for days.
Why you don't just drink
Tim Hortons is not. Nobody.
I mean, everyone. Everyone drinks Tim Hortons.
The coffee from Tim Hortons is not
the
terrible.
Starbucks of the North.
It is, but it's not as like so. Like it always tastes a little artificial.
It reminds me of gas station coffee. I'm sorry.
It tastes artificial. That's the problem. Like it's not like immediately offensive like some of the overly acidic stuff is, but it has that same kind of like McDonald's coffee kind of thing going for it. And so that's why people do the double doubles and like put cream and sugar in it like crazy because they're like, let's just disguise all the artificial flavor here.
We're making milk now.
Yeah. But see, like if I'm on a road trip somewhere, I'll have a Tim Hortons coffee and be totally fine with it. It's not a problem. But I wouldn't choose it if I had a. If
it was just next to a Starbucks or something.
I'd probably go to the Starbucks over the Tim Hortons stuff. But the other reason is that Tim Hortons, ever since they got bought by somebody, they're no longer a Canadian company, and they haven't been for a long time. I want to say it's the same company that owns Krispy Kreme. I don't know.
I think it's like Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, it could be. It's one or the other. Yeah. But ever since that happened, their quote unquote food has become completely inedible. Like it's not.
I agree.
I don't think
donuts are not that as good.
I don't think it passes as food. Like it is. It's just this rancid meat from the sandwiches. It's disgusting. So I basically I try to boycott Tim Hortons as much as I can because it's not. And what they noticed is that because of their clientele, like their customer base, they didn't notice a drop in sales, even though the quality went way down.
It's like, oh,
so
we're
people still want to inject their sludge into their veins and
yeah.
complement it with a garbage sandwich.
Yep.
From the dumpster, from the garbage.
That happened. That's everywhere. That's even here. Like I remember I was driving to drop off the dog the other day, and I was like, I drove past like a fast food restaurant, and I was like, and it was like 6 a.m, and I'm driving past this place, and it's like the line was like literally out the freaking thing, and I'm like,
yeah,
but why?
Yeah.
Like, but back into audio real quick. Next question is from Scott Pledger. What do you each think is the best headphone for its price? And this one is very subjective, and actually maybe we can have a top.
Well, for its price, what like. So not to get into the price brackets thing, because I think that's a different question, because there's the best headphones for its price as far as like value,
yeah,
because you could have that at any price,
yeah,
right?
At any price, yeah. I mean, cost Porter Pros, for crying out loud.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's less than $50 with Yaxi pads in your.
Yeah. So
take them everywhere.
So best headphones as far as value is concerned, I'm gonna still give it to the drop Sennheiser HD6XX.
Yeah. That's
well, this is 650 or 6XX,
Mm-hmm.
and also the Sennheiser HD600. I mean, those ones are always great value, especially because they scale so much with upstream equipment. So if you have a crazy tube amp eventually, or something that'll get the most out of it, you are going to get detail that is competitive with way more expensive headphones. So the value there, I think, is still the number one, but that then stops, I think, at. Like, I do think that the Sundara is like the next step up from that with an amplifier, because you need an amplifier to run it. As far as like the best value, I think the Sundara is there. Focal Alex is another one. Actually, by the way, this is basically an Alex.
Yeah, the Lear is an Alex with clear pads.
A Lear with the clear pads. And I'll do some measurements to confirm that it is actually kind of like the Alex. I don't expect it to be like exactly there, but pretty close. I don't know. And then from there, I end up going into the Odysseys, because the Odysseys are, I mean, yeah, they need, some of them need EQ, but when you do get into that, the technical performance of those is so insane compared to the competition, like at around that price, that I think that's really where the next major value proposition is for best, headphones for the price. But it does require, learning how to EQ and get into that, which I know Tyler hates. So I'll let you. What are your? I mean, what's your best?
I don't hate EQ. It's fun to meme against it. It's all.
No, you hate it.
I also don't like it. Yeah, but I would say I agree. The HD6XX is definitely a
$220. Man,
you can't.
Insane.
It's insane. Yeah. Like, I'd even say, if you're willing to have a freaking thing on your head, is the 5.8X, the gaming headphone. That's
Wait,
even
no,
better.
You mean PC3.8X?
PC3.8X. Yeah, thank you. PC3.8X, not 5.8X. PC3.8X with the microphone for gaming. Like, that one's like under $200, and I was like, it's
actually, I have an upcoming review on the PC3.8X coming out tomorrow morning.
Perfect timing.
I have to apologize in advance for the audio quality in that review, because for whatever reason, one of the amps or DACs that I was using created some weird sort of feedback loop with the microphone and the interface. I have no idea why. I can't explain it, but it showed up in the recording, and I tried to get rid of it with just like filters. It's like this sort of like background like hum noise thing. Yeah, it's right at around like 9K, so it's this. It's really annoying. But when I moved that amp to the office and tried recording something else, it completely went away. So. I don't know what went on there, but
Gremlins.
Getting back to the PC3.8X, I do think it's incredible value, but if you don't need the microphone, I would get the 560S over that every day. I think for detail, and this is I was surprised. It's a gaming headphone, but I found it had the same issues, that sort of 3 blob issue. Like, I agree with Corinne on that. Like, it's closer in terms of soundstage and imaging to the 650 than it is to the 560S. And so I don't know, like, I do, again, like, don't get me wrong, I definitely recommend that headphone. It's it's one of the best frequency responses I've ever seen at that price. And it has a microphone that sounds great too. So
yeah, the Sennheiser mics are always fantastic.
It's a great, headphone. I think if you didn't need the microphone, the 560S or the 6XX, it's worth going up to those.
Yeah.
But sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no, you're good.
Continue.
So yeah, I was gonna say those types of deals. Yeah, the 560 is also an excellent deal. I personally just wasn't the biggest fan. I'd rather have the 6 series.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you there.
Let's see. Above that, I would probably say, you know what, the LCD GX is a really good value.
I hadn't
If
thought
you're
of that one in there. Yeah, that's a
because
good.
it's yeah, like that. I mean, that one it's another gaming headphone, but that thing just sounds good. Like on for audio, like for actual listening to
One
music. I
of
actually prefer
the
it to music.
oddities that doesn't need EQ.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one. It's just
Yeah.
But yeah, that one. And then I would say in the top tier, I'd either go with.
I was just gonna say it sounds like a better tuned LCD2 Classic. Sounds like a better tuned version of that.
I can agree with that. Yeah, and above that, I would say that's when you start getting into the more subjective stuff. Anything above those price range, right?
Yeah.
So I personally I like the ZMF stuff just because you're getting the handcrafted, high quality piece of kit.
Yeah, so it depends how do you assess value?
Value,
right? Yeah. Is it value as far as like? Plus, there's great value there because he's got lifetime warranties.
And then I also look at things like how is it doing on the aftermarket, right? Like, do these retain their price points? Are they even on? How long do they last on the market? And they're usually gone in like minutes. It's
a great consideration for value. Yeah. Actually, speaking of value, how are you liking those Celesti closebacks?
These are I might have to get myself a pair. These made the Elysia a $400 headphone. You know what I mean? Like,
but see, that's because you never EQ'd the Elysia.
I never EQ'd the Elysia. Yeah,
you know what's funny is that actually if you own an Elysia, I do recommend using the Celesti pads on it. Now it won't turn it into a Celesti. A Celesti, like you can't get a Celesti by putting Celesti pads on the Elysia. They did more than just pad changes. But I do think that the Celesti pads on the Elysia make the Elysia have a better frequency response. It sounds closer to like what I would EQ the Elysia to.
I can see that. I mean, because I love the Elysia. You and I both had a very similar experience with the Elysia.
I also EQ'd it, but I wasn't a huge fan of the default tuning. But and really the Celesti just kind of it made it like
just
what I wanted.
11. Yeah, exactly. Like that's like actually exactly my comment I was gonna say. Is like the Celesti is basically what I wanted the Elysia to be.
Yeah. That's what I EQ'd it to. But yeah, I see more questions here from the super chat, so we really should.
Yeah. As the next one was like Odyssey IEM's thoughts.
It's okay to be cheap. That's already very generous, Marius. Marius, I hope you got your. Did we send him the Focal Spark?
Yes, we did send him the Spark.
Awesome.
Or I hope we did. That wasn't from Folk. Did Focal send you the Spark?
If you didn't get it yet, send us an email.
Yeah.
Odyssey IEM thought. Yeah, I have it here somewhere. Oh no, it's over on the table.
The non-gas station.
I was gonna hold it up. Yeah, it got one of the. So I gotta say, it's a massive achievement to be able to, like as far as from a technical standpoint, to have a closed back planar magnetic IEM in general. Because it is really difficult to close off a planar magnetic headphone, even over your headphone, and get the tuning to be decent. And that's one of the things you see with the DCA headphones, where they just, crazy amounts of damping to get the frequency response the way they want it. And then you can even add front filters if you want, which, I'm not a huge fan of that, but they're able to do it, right? With planar magnetic IEMs, like here's the 10 Hi-Fi P2, which is I'll do a review of this soon.
That's a unique beast.
It's also a unique beast, right? So there are a number of challenges in terms of developing that stuff. So the fact that they went there with the Euclid and got it to have the frequency response that it does, I really do think it's a first. It's an achievement that no other planar magnetic IEM has been able to do. And I can say flat out that it is the best tuned planar magnetic IEM by default that I've heard yet. And that includes Odyssey's open back iSign stuff, or LCD i3. With that said, I don't think that the frequency response is as competitive as what you get with like some of the, I guess, I don't know, like the crazy value IEMs coming out of, like from The Audio and Moondrop. Like they've got their frequency responses nailed down, especially with some of the, hybrids and tribrids that they're doing, that come in at, almost half the price. The Duno SA6 has a better frequency response, right? And that's largely just because it's so much easier to tune multi-BA configurations, or any hybrids that have multi-BA configurations in them. But with that said, the Euclid is still, I'll do a review of it, but the Euclid is still the better technical performer than anything else at that price that I can think of, including the Andromeda. I mean, I think it's around $1,200. I don't know. Somebody can correct me. But around that price, I don't think there's anything else that I've heard that performs for technical performance at that level. It's really, really detailed. And so, I think that the tuning it's not offensive, and it's better than anything else for planars, but it is still something that I would probably EQ a little bit. That's sort of my take there. But it is a really fascinating and impressive product. Thank you, Soren, for that. It's very generous.
And then LCDX worth it £100 over LCD2. I would say if you like technicalities, it's.
Oh God, I just saw that for non-gas station coffee.
Yeah, for non-gas station coffee.
Oh man, sorry. I'm just catching up now. Continue.
Yeah. So the LCD-X, I would say, is technically a better headphone than the LCD2, but the LCD2 is. But if you EQ both, I'd say LCD2. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for, to me, the LCD-X was cleaner, more neutral, and the LCD2 was warmer, more thumpy.
It's going to depend. This gets back to what we were talking about with model years.
Yeah, there's also that factor. Yeah,
because the one from 2020, like early 2020, the frequency response for the LCD-X was too weird. But the LCD2 is also weird. If you're going to get either of them, I mean, I think yes, the LCD-X is worth it as far as technical performance goes, but and I can't say any more about this, but if you're going to get either of them, get one brand new. You're
sorry. Yeah,
something's happening.
I forgot to turn off my mute.
Yeah. I would say just don't get a used one. Basically, is what I'm saying, because you can get used ones, but the question mark is always like you don't really know when that was. I mean, unless they have the actually, if you do buy used, that's another thing. Get that card if they still have it. Try and ask for that, because that is kind of like the the authenticity thing. So you can say to Odyssey, hey, this is, I am the owner now. I have this card. But it was just going to say, the other thing is you don't always know when something is from. So I would say try and buy new if you can. And there are other reasons as well that I can't talk about.
Next one was Phonitor X. Did you have any issues with it? This is from Taihara1. Phonitor X, power hungry headphones or sensitive IEMs. Is there issues that you've had with those?
Depends how power hungry. I'm going to say right now the Phonitor X is best for high impedance dynamic driver headphones. So, all sensitivities, but dynamic driver headphones on the Phonitor X are a great pairing. And no, there's no issues driving high impedance dynamic driver headphones like 600 ohm Bayers, no problem. I don't know, like the only one I can think of maybe would be like the Audio Technica ADX 5000, which is I think 400 ohms, 420 ohms, 420 blaze it ohms. So yeah, it has no problem driving that, and it's got tons of power if you need it, because you got to flip the switches on the back. Yeah. As far as sensitive IEMs, I'm gonna say probably not. I don't know.
It's okay with the volume. They were gonna run into the problem where you're gonna be.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah, like the Andromeda. I don't know if I would do that. There's another amplifier I have here that's actually really good for sensitive IEMs, and is good for has enough power. I'll be doing a review of that next week actually. But
the next question's controversial, by the way. Just a heads up.
So I just wanted to finish up on the Phonitor X. The one thing that I think it's maybe not as well suited to is something like an HE6 or something that needs really high current, because it's more, from what I understand, it's more of a voltage based amplifier. which typically does better with dynamic driver headphones, whereas the high current stuff is going to do better with planars. But you can run like 99% of planars off of the Fonda X and it'll be great. It's just those few that are like, the Sesfara and the LCD4 and the HE6 are the ones that I might.
The Sesfara is pretty good.
You can, I think you can power it and you can get loud enough. But there's people using speaker amps for those ones for good reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
So
headphones. As I said, headphones. I did a thing with them the other day with the.
Oh yeah, I watched that. I watched the. I didn't watch it live, but I watched it this morning actually.
Yeah, it was interesting, man. Like, because I finally threw the Fonda up there, and I haven't used the Fonda in a while. Comparing it to HPA4, and it. I think there was a definite difference. I think that but it just comes down to, I don't know. It's a unique little beast, but the Fonda's good for, like I said, most things. But
I haven't heard the HPA4. That's the one from.
It's THX on steroids. So if you've heard of 789,
but what's the brand that does that? It was a Japanese one.
Benchmark.
It's Benchmark. Okay.
Yeah, Benchmark. And then it's basically, like I said, if you've heard the 789, just take that and then dump like gobs and gobs of power into it, and that's basically the Benchmark HPA4. It's just got a ton of power.
Right. Gotcha.
But so Elnrick asked the next question, but I don't know if we want to touch on this too much. Can you hear the difference in DAX? I'm going to skip that little last part. Can you speak on technical, artful superiority of Gimme Chocolate versus other Baby Metal songs?
Baby Metal, yeah.
Torture Track.
I have another one for you, and it's check out a band called Ailstorm. I won't list the names of their songs because it's definitely not good for this kind of thing. But Ailstorm. If you like Baby Metal, you'll like Ailstorm. Okay, can you hear the difference in DAX? Yes, but it depends on the DAX, and it depends. Like,
I agree.
If you're comparing 5 $200 DAX that are all AKM DAX, I don't know. Like, probably not. Like, that's. But if you're comparing a bunch of DACs that are like, if you're comparing an ESS based DAC with an AKM DAC with a Burr Brown DAC, yeah, absolutely, you can hear those differences. You can even hear differences between AKM DACs depending on the implementation and whether it was an ES9038 Pro versus the older one. So you can hear those differences because of intermodulation distortion, and in some, ends up being a little bit grating. At least if that's being correlated correctly. I don't know 100% that it is, but it seems like it, because that's kind of how some of them are a little more grating and analytic, and some of them are smoother. And you can definitely hear that difference. Where it gets even more interesting, though, is in some of the custom DAC designs that are out there. Like, I was going to say Shit Audio, like Chord. With those ones, you can hear that difference even more. So, yeah, you can absolutely hear the implementation. Yeah,
and then that leads into. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment on Elnrick's point there. Thanks for the $10, man. That's awesome. I just wanted to comment on that other thing that you mentioned. I know the video that you're referencing because I watched that like a long time ago, back even before I was a reviewer. And I think for those DACs in question that supposedly sounded the same, I think they probably do sound the same. Like, I want to say most DACs, especially the ones that are more entry level, do sound basically the same, or close enough that it's not worth even really mentioning.
Yeah, he actually did one just yesterday that was pretty controversial. Okay. He did the Hollow May, and he said the Hollow May sounds exactly the same as a $200 DAC. And then he also did a thing where he compared them. He used a stack of 789s, 3 789s to compare the DACs. Okay. That's how he did it.
Yeah. I'm not. This is the thing. Like, I watch some reviews, but I don't watch most. I watch DMS's reviews.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I watch Josh's reviews. I used to watch Metal's reviews, of course, when he was still doing them. And that's pretty much it. I don't really watch anybody else. So I mean, if I come across something, I watch Tyler's stuff, of course, Marcello's stuff. But like, I don't have the time to I don't think anybody really has
Yeah,
that time to go through
it's tough, man.
everybody's. There's a lot of really great audio content out there. So I definitely haven't seen that video, but I know he talked about one. He did a similar one like years ago. So
Yeah,
that's kind of
I know exactly. I did the
yeah
same thing. I heard the same one, and yeah,
yeah.
which is funny because then I think a couple later, like this is when I first was getting into it. Like you're
Yeah.
talking about, like I made a comment to somebody. I was like, oh, it's the I think it was on the forum. I was like, it's kind of like a rite of passage to be like to buy a Zeos recommended thing.
Yeah, it definitely is. But no, like as far as DAC differences, they are generally, unless you're talking about like some of the crazy stuff that actually is like really different, they're generally not that different from one another. And but that's kind of where I can't remember. I think it was Ian who said that. But when you do start hearing the subtle differences, you do like that starts to matter suddenly, even though objectively the differences are so tiny. So yeah, I also don't like. This is the thing. It's like I like DACs that don't screw things up, and for the most part, there's and also like features and implementations. So like for me, that's what counts more than any significant difference in sound quality, because and it depends on the price, of course, but like that it really doesn't, at least it shouldn't sound that different from another good DAC. So yeah, I can understand where some of the reservations are about that, but of course, speaking of the Hollow, I haven't heard it, so I can't give you that assessment.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm not gonna. I won't mince words. I really like it. It's enough to make me pine for it, I guess. Best budget amp DAC for Sundara or Ananda's.
Just on that note, Ananda is not like the Sundara as far as power requirement. The Ananda is a very efficient planar, and you can drive it from just about anything. So. Yeah, I think that question ends up being, and thanks for the question, by the way, that really ends up being best budget amp DAC for the Sundara. Sorry, you were going to say.
Oh, no, I was going to say the same. Yeah, Ananda or so either, I mean, honestly, any shit stack, any, or even all in one that's under $500 would be easily recommended for those. I mean, as long as it's, like you said, well fitted, I'd say.
Yeah. I don't like budget. I would almost just go with a Modi Magni Heresy stack.
That's what I was.
I mean, it's like $200, right, in total.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could use one of the all-in-ones.
Like the Hell. I have the shit Hell sitting around here, but that's more of a gaming thing.
The thing is, you do want a decent amount of power for these. They are not efficient. I mean, they're low impedance, but they're not efficient. So, I don't know. Modius Magnius, run it balanced.
Modius Magnius, that's how yeah, that's, I would say that's actually a really good recommendation.
This little Sonkos thing, and then whatever matching amp from SMSL. Like SMSL has something, I'm sure that'll drive it. Topping has something, I'm sure that'll drive it. Just get something with a decent amount of power output, and you'll be fine. I don't know if I would recommend the Zendac. I'm not sure how much that, because that's an all-in-one, but that's less because the idea there is to pair it with an amplifier like the Zen Can, which the Zen Can would definitely have enough power for it, but you'd still need the DAC, and that ends up being more expensive if you go that route than just the Modi Magni, combo.
Agreed.
So I also like, I don't know, I'm a fan of discrete components, discrete separate units. I like discrete components as well over the op amp route, but yeah, I like having separate units, because then you can always upgrade in the future. So you can get a Modi, whatever the Modi or Modius, right? Whatever they're on right now, and then get the matching amp now, and then in the future you can get a tube amp and use that. I mean, you can there's DAC amp combos where you can do that too, but I like the idea of being able to separate everything.
Oof. Yeah, sorry, question. Topping A90 versus THX 789. That's tough.
THX 789.
Yeah.
I know Android has the A90.
He sold it. He got rid of it.
Did he? Okay. Yeah. His reaction, I think, is kind of what my reaction was to that as well.
Yeah.
It just is not.
Which is funny. The D90 is a great DAC. I think, as far as that price point, the D90 is a good one. But the A90, for the amp part of that, it was not my favorite.
It's funny because it got such a recommendation from a certain forum that it just does, like, I don't know how you can this is like indexing too hard for measurements, right? As
Yeah.
somebody we know has said, but like I don't know how you can listen to that and then listen to, yeah, I don't know, most other amplifiers.
Yeah.
I
Like,
don't know. I'm being too critical here because like it is a very, let's say, transparent sound, but it's not fun.
it's not fun. And yeah, and even then, like, there's like I did a comparison where I compared it against unfair things like the
Oh
TT2
yeah,
and
okay.
what have you, but like even the Phonitor, and it just it was obvious like that it
We
wasn't as good.
we were comparing it actually to the Rebel amp with the
Oh,
Celesti, and
Rebels.
it was like not close. I remember, and the Rebel amp's not expensive.
Yeah.
So no, I would take Kai HA6 over the A90. I would take THX 789. I would take the Rebel amp over the A90. It probably depends on what specifically you're looking for. If
Yeah.
you want something that has good synad, sure, but I don't think that
I don't listen to Synad though. I don't know about
you
you,
don't.
but
I thought synad was a buying guide.
yeah. I thought, oh, it's not a band. Oh, wait, it is a band, but not
Uh,
the band that. No,
yeah,
sorry.
we
Bad
should
jokes.
make
Bad
we should
jokes.
start a band and call it the
Called
Synads.
Synad. That'd be great.
That's great.
Yes.
Very few people will get that reference, but it'll be fun.
That'd be good. Martin asks, "Are you using Electro Voice RE20?"
That is what this microphone is. Again, I'm so sorry for the upcoming review and the audio quality in that upcoming review. I know I'm going to get comments on it because it's not good, but I don't have time to film it again. That's straight up the reason why I haven't filmed it again. But yeah, the RE20 is great. Dynamic mics in general are not as good as cardioid condenser mics as far as detail. But the problem with condenser mics is that you pick up all the room tone. So if you're looking to cut that out, the simplest solution is to use a dynamic mic. And this happens to be a pretty good one, so that's why I'm using this right now.
Someone asked, "What would you recommend for instead of an A90?" I'd say Jotunheim 2.
Oh yeah, the Jotunheim. That's another.
Yeah, fantastic.
What am I even? You like? Wait, how much is that? That's not
It's
expensive.
like $500, I think. If yeah, I
But
think
but you can get that with the DAC module, right?
yeah, you get that with the DAC module.
So
Yeah, and that's like
that's
an extra
your-
$100, I think.
No,
So
okay, yeah. So
600
it's more
bucks.
expensive than you would probably go for the Sundara, but that is like a complete
Yeah.
setup that's like
Yeah.
done.
Lots of power.
Lots
Or
of
the
power.
Asgard. The Asgard's another fantastic amp.
Yeah.
Honestly, the shit stuff is really SCHIIT stuff is much harder. Sorry, that I had to clarify just to be. But
I have to mark this as explicit. Don't worry.
yeah. Thanks for your hilarity. Shit. But no, yeah, I think the Asgard as well was a really good listen as well, and that's even cheaper. Is that? Yeah, I think that's cheaper than the Jotunheim, isn't it?
I'm
think
not
it is.
sure.
Might be-
I love the shit stuff, but it's hard for me to get that stuff in for evaluation.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the Magni 3 Heresy here and the Magni 3 Plus or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only ones. But I used to be all about the shit stuff, so I need
yeah,
to get back.
$400.
into that.
$400 for the Yacht 2.
$400.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's wonderful.
And Asgard is $200. So yeah, there you go. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really only $200 for the Asgard. That's a fantastic deal. Asgard is really good as well.
Yeah. So I think so. I don't really like the way the shit stuff looks, to be honest. I don't know. It doesn't matter, but like I'm not. It's not
I
that kind of thing.
aesthetically. I like aesthetics. You know?
I'm definitely more for what it does over what it looks like, but
Yeah.
I get it.
And then someone says Yacht 2 over Magnus. I would say if you have a balanced DAC, the Magnus is the way. Otherwise, I'd go Yacht.
I think Yacht 2 probably
Yeah,
over
probably
Magnus.
Yacht 2 Magnus,
I think
yeah.
that's probably better. I don't. Yeah, right. Because you would save yourself money if you already had like a Sonkos or something like that. I get
But
that.
the Magnus is, I think they even mentioned it in a couple of things. Where the Magnus is specifically done best. The balanced is specifically better on the Magnus, as I recall. I think it's I
Than
think
the
so.
Jot 2.
Than the single ended. So if you don't have a
Right, but what I'm
balance-
saying is if you use the Jot 2 with the DAC in it, there would be no sense to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
that
I
would be
agree.
better than because you still have to buy a balanced DAC, if
DAC,
you're going to go with
also,
the
yeah.
Magnus. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. I agree. Yeah, on it.
Okay,
Let's see.
how much? I see another question here. How much should you spend on the DAC amp in relation to the cost of the headphones? So this is what we were talking about
It's
with.
value.
Yeah, no, but I was talking about this with the tube amp reviews. We were talking about this earlier, where I think if you're trying to get the most bang for your buck, spend way more on the headphones,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
get a Modius Magnius combo or whatever, something, entry level Modi Magni combo,
Maybe like a
and
40
then
40 20 split, maybe, if you really wanted to, or 60 20 20.
I get. I would even go. I would even go. I'd say 80,
Oh yeah,
80,
80
10, and
10
10,
10.
because you can get a focal clear and run it off of
Oh
literally
yeah,
anything, right?
that's also
So,
very true.
what's, um,
Like
but
yeah, these go. I can run this off a phone dongle and
yeah,
it'd sound fantastic. So
but once you decide to spend $3,000, then the question of, I still think the headphones are the most important, but
mhm.
there are definitely situations where the amp that you're using, like especially like more so tubes than solid state, but there are definitely situations where the amp that you're using can be the thing that makes the most difference. Not the most difference when comparing like switching different headphones, but is the thing that is making your chain great.
Yeah.
The headphones might make your chain good, but then you can get an amp that makes the chain great. And so I think there are reasons to spend even more on an amplifier, depending on the headphones and the type of system that you want to put together. This goes to something that Last Rhino has always been on. I'm not sure if he's in the chat. Maybe he is.
I've seen
I
him a
see
couple
him, yeah.
times. Yeah.
Where he's definitely a HD 600 fanboy. And so I'm sure. So that's not a very expensive headphone, but you can get higher end tube amps that cost way more that make the headphone scale. And so this
Mm-hmm.
idea makes sense. Now I still think that there's a limit to that, but again, depending on the headphones, there are good reasons to spend just as much, if not more, on certain amps. I'm not going to say all amps, but certain amps. And I used to be the other way on that. I used to say, no, never. But then I heard some and I was like, oh, this changes that
This
question.
it really does. Like
Yeah.
like once heard can't be unheard kind of a thing, and it sucks because it's hard to hear some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And you have to like kind of rely on other people's opinions for a lot of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it I would say, yeah, I agree. I think that once there's a certain point, like where, yeah, it matters the amp and the DAC even towards
Yeah.
I'd say as you progress, it's funny, like, well, because I agree. So if you focus mostly on headphones in the beginning, have a stable of headphones.
Yeah.
And then you can start moving that budget over to your amps. And then you have a bunch of amps, you find the amp you really like, and then you can start looking at, okay, well, what's the best DAC I can get then? And that would be probably my progression, I would say, is the best progression for hearing those differences.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're just starting out.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
Because like that's another thing. It's like a lot of people don't, they're not as familiar with the landscape of what else is out there and how things might change the sound. But I think, if you're just starting out, 6XX and a THX amp, or I don't know, like all of the different amazing budget options out there are
Perfect
great.
for start. Yeah.
Same thing with the Sundara. I see here, there's a question I wanted to answer. Need help on planning my next planar purchase. I'm not going to quite pull the trigger on the Sundara, but want to get as close to it as possible per dollar spent. I don't really have an answer for you there, because the problem is with high-end planars, like the really high-end ones, is that like they do not scale linearly with price, in the sense that they may have amazing technical performance, but the tuning and frequency response is often not that great. And it's one of the biggest challenges, I think, for many of these planar manufacturers, is figuring out how to get the tuning right for these crazy technical performing headphones. And that's one of the things that makes this Sundara so unique, is that it is the one crazy nanoscale planar that actually has a perfect frequency response. This is, again, Kryn has a graph of it on an industry standard rig, and you can see it there as well. Whereas everything else is like, there's always something that is, there's a slight coloration here and there, which may be enjoyable, right? Same thing with the Abyss stuff. It may be enjoyable, but it's not reference. And so it really depends what you're looking for. If you want a reference kind of sound, I don't think there is anything in the high end that is like the Sundara in a planar. That's the only one that I can think of that would be a reference kind of sound. But actually, you might want to look into head audio headphone, and you might want to look into just trying to think what else would be. Oh yeah, HE6 SE or HE6. If you can get an HE6, an original one, do that. Um, Otherwise, I don't know if there's anything else that I could think of that would be close to this as far as like what it's doing for its tuning. Oh, Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
I mean, Utopia is a closer
closest
tuning,
Utopia is the
but it's
closest
a
to
dynamic,
the yeah.
so it's not.
It's a dynamic. Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah.
Or the Rads. The Rads are really fantastic.
Yeah, the Rads, but the Rads are more of like they're a warmer tuning, I think. So it's I don't
He
know.
can tune them. He'll tune
Yeah,
them
you'd want to
neutral.
maybe ask him, kind of,
But they'll still have that kind of LCD 3
Yeah, I think that's
kind of sound, I'd say.
Yeah.
So that's what.
Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah,
Talk to Rawson and see what he can do. That's what my advice is. Any chance of getting Torque on the live stream? Probably not. I think he's
probably not.
He's
not a big
retired.
YouTube social person either.
Yeah.
In
Sorry,
fact, I think he's out of state right now.
Yeah. Oh wow, Eminent. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, holy smokes! LCD i4 and EUP versus reveal. There you go.
Sorry, equalizer APO versus reveal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I need to get an LCD i4 in. I actually have not heard that one. I know that it actually has some of the craziest technical performance in any IEM. Like, it is probably the most technically insane. In-ear.
Yeah.
I mean, I hesitate to say in-ear monitor but it's an in-ear.
It's an in-ear headphone.
Yeah.
That's actually call it too.
Yeah. So, but I will sort of answer your question here. In my experience, Reveal is a little bit more on the conservative side. It's not going to be as, let's say, accurate as you might want to get. And the reason for that is because of unit variation and revisions. You can't, if you're making a preset or any kind of digital signal processing that's supposed to work with all models, you can't be as exact as you might be with just one specific model. I think that's true for any situation. It's not just unique to Odyssey. And this is one of the issues with using presets for your DSP, regardless of which headphone you have. If you're using an oratory preset, if there's some unit variation for that headphone that you're talking about, or that you're trying to evaluate and improve, then it's not going to perfectly apply. And this is, I think, one of the reasons why people use those presets and go, it doesn't sound that great. Or even one of my presets that I've done, or one of Chrono's. If there's some subtle difference there, it can throw it off. So what I advocate for is try to do your own, and then because it'll, and use your ears, of course, and use the frequency response to guide that. Because not everybody has access to these measurement rigs, right? So just use it as a guide, and then be a little bit more conservative. Use as few filters as possible. Also, I do want to mention the best EQ software now is actually Rune. The latest Rune update made it so that you can get crazy with EQ in there, and it is so easy to use. It's so technically I'd say Peace is still a little better as far as the types of filters you can use, because it is more flexible there. Like I think the low or the high shelf doesn't work the same way in Rune. It kind of screws it up, whereas you can use it on EQ APO. But if I was just getting into EQ, I would use Rune. It's so much easier. Obviously it costs money, but Rune is magic.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Okay, let's do 2 more questions, and then we'll do the giveaway. How's that sound, guys? I see.
Actually,
you go ahead.
Go ahead.
I see Taryn in the chat.
Yeah, so I have that purple LX I got on a whim. So
now the LX, that's i3 though?
Yeah, it's the lower end model. It's like
so I heard the i3. I'm looking for the i4.
Yeah, the i4, which i4 is really. I like the i4 when I heard it. It sounded like a really good. Sounded like a good planar headphone.
Yeah,
Odyssey.
So I'm sure it can take EQ is just fine.
Yeah. What is your take? Do you think you've heard both? I've heard both. Radiance or Celeste?
Oh, Celeste. Well, it depends. For all day relaxed listening, probably the Radiance, because I find it a little more comfortable. Mm-hmm. But for the sound profile, I like the Celeste better.
Yeah, I'd say that the Radiance is a little more. I wouldn't actually call it warmer. It's just punchier, maybe. Like it might have a little more low end to
It's
me.
bassier for sure. It's got
Yeah.
more like mid bass.
Mid bass. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I after hearing these for a long time, I do actually really like these a lot myself as well.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Celesti.
The treble performance is pretty similar between the two.
Mm-hmm.
But I did a lot of pad swapping and changing it up and stuff, and I found that, yeah, like my I guess conclusion on pad swapping around for the focals is that like focals already taken into consideration which pads sound best on which headphone. Like they've developed pads specifically for a given headphone, and so I don't know if it's, with the exception of the Alere and the Clear, right? I think that's the only. But for the closebacks, I just stick with whatever pads that come with the headphone. Maybe get the Celesti pads on the Legia if you have an Legia, but it does not sound like a Celesti. Okay, let's do one more and then we'll do the giveaway.
Mm-hmm. Someone's asked if they have you've heard the Mez 99 classics, right?
I have one here still, actually. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. So what would be a good upgrade to that? To me personally, I think there's lots of really good upgrades to that one.
Yeah. Not that that's a bad headphone,
No.
depending on the pads that you get. Some pads were like crazy bass boomy, but then other pads were a little bit more linear. I need to do a pad investigation with that because I know Deconi makes pads for that as well. But as far as like detail and like technical performance, yeah, there's a lot you can upgrade to. In a closeback, I'm gonna say Celesti. I don't know, like it depends how much you're willing to spend, right? Like that's not a very expensive headphone, the 99 Classic,
$200,
right?
I think 300.
Yeah, 300 something. Yeah, so an upgrade there might be the, I don't know, like that Aeon. I think there's an Aeon. Oh no, wait, that's the no. If it's a closeback, maybe that Aeon that was around $500, the Aeon RT, something like that.
Yeah,
would probably be an upgrade. But I should think other closebacks that are around that price.
It's tough.
It's tough because Drop stopped doing the TRX00s.
Yeah,
I think there's still the Teak one, but I don't know if that's enough of an upgrade. It is an upgrade, but I don't know if it's enough of an upgrade. Maybe the
yeah, I'd say these for closebacks.
I mean, yeah, if you can swing it, definitely the Celesti. I think that's the best closeback under $1,000. The other one that's really interesting that I haven't had a chance to evaluate yet is or at least not for more than any length of time, the Aurorus Audio Australis, the closeback one that they're working on. Yeah, so that one might be another one to consider, but that's a little bit more of like a boutique kind of thing. I don't know if that's everybody's kind of thing. I did like the look of it though, and it looked and felt a little bit more better than the open back. But that, I think, for sound quality would definitely be an upgrade over the 99 Classic. But that's also, I don't know what the price is of that either. So I think it's also around that ballpark.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I don't have an answer there as far as like a straightforward closeback upgrade. EMU Teak, thank you for mentioning that.
Teak, yeah.
Yeah, so that might be the way to go. I think it is an upgrade. I don't know if it's enough of an upgrade, but it would be better than the 99 Classic, I think. Yeah. Yeah, TRX00 is the one I would have said, or TH610, but there's question marks as far as like availability for those.
Yeah.
But obviously those are they're a lot more like I guess palatable for price. If you're buying a $320 headphone and someone says, no, you got to get the one that's $900, that seems a bit weird. So,
yeah. CFA Cascades are definitely bass canny gigabass.
Bass insanity. CFA. Yeah. Aeon X closed. That's the other one. I haven't had a chance to hear that one. But maybe that Aeon X closed thing. It's around 500 if I remember correctly. But it might just be I don't know. That might just be the Aeon RT. Like I need to. There are so many different models out there for those. I just don't know enough about what those are to be able to give a recommendation. Yeah. Have you guys heard the LSA HP2 or Kennerton Gjallarhorn? No, but I have the HP1 here, which I got to send back. I will not be doing a review of that.
Yeah, I heard the Valley. It reminded me of a not quite as good Aeolus, but really it was good. It just wasn't as good as the Aeolus.
Yeah. The Valley with those Timpani drivers, good drivers. I've heard a number of headphones with those, but
It sounds really good. I just
Yeah.
when I compared it to the Alis, I
It's the
personally
same
prefer the
same
Alis.
driver, I think, that the Borealis uses. Speaking of
Hmm.
Aurora's audio. Um, okay, that basic. I see someone say Aeon 2. Probably depend. I would get, if you're going to go Aeon 2, go Noir. I think
Hmm.
over the original Aeon 2 Noir, because black is better than red.
Hmm.
No, I looked at the tuning. It looks better on the Noir. So okay. That's gonna do it for the Q&A. Let's do the giveaway now. So I'm gonna grab all the names. Let's see how many people we have. We got just over 1,600.
Nice.
So that should be fun. I'm
It's
gonna do
so
this by. Yeah. Okay. Let me just see. Bear with us. Somebody in the live chat do a drum roll, please.
it goes brr.
I just got to get rid of that initial heading. Okay.
Okay. Jason. At Jason, I would say the biggest difference between Sundara and DT 1990 Pros would probably be treble performance. Sundara's would be an easier listen. By easy, I mean not as in your face.
So
Listen.
what was the comparison?
DT 1990s versus
Oh
Sundara.
gosh, yeah, that is. I don't know, man. It's so weird that like there's now like a canonical following of the DT 1990.
Yeah.
Because people bought it. It feels weird. But yeah, I don't even think it should be used for studio use. I mean, I originally I thought it did because if you're looking for flaws, it might make sense to do for studio use. But I don't think. I hope that people.
Studio.
Yeah, you could use that.
I
I
just
just
studio is fantastic. I'm not stupid.
I just hope people. I don't know. I think if you're going to be using it for studio reference, AKG K371, like that's the whole point of that project. Studio reference. Like, I don't know why you would use a crazy sibilant headphone for a studio reference. I don't want to trash on it because you can just EQ that out, and it sounds great. It does great at other things too, but it's there for identifying flaws. Mm-hmm. You could use it in a studio for that. Yes. I will, but not as a sense of like, here's how it's going to sound like. Yeah, I'll give you another analogy, right? If you are color grading on a monitor, right, and you just say you're editing photos or color grading in some fashion for accurate colors, you want the monitor to be color accurate. Mm-hmm. You want the monitor to be what other people are going to be. You want to be able to look at the monitor in a way that other people who are using, like let's say most devices, they're going to see it that way. Mm-hmm. Now you could color grade on a wide gamut display and then grade it for that. But the reality is that most people aren't going to be using wide gamut displays to consume stuff on. And
90% of people.
Yeah, on phones. Now some of them some of them do have different, but this is why I think it's important to use as a reference point a standard gamut. So you know what it's going to look like on most equipment. Now, it obviously changes depending on if it's going to be implemented in a situation where you have a color managed application, but 90% of the time it's not. So I don't know why you would use something that exaggerates one color or another when you're doing your color grade. It doesn't make any sense to me, right? So take that analogy to headphones and sound quality. Why would you use a headphone that exaggerates 8.5K like crazy to get the most accurate representation? Maybe I'm missing something. Like I don't know.
Actually, there's a sound engineer that would love to come on. We could talk to him about it. I could see about getting him on if you wanted. And he has a mix of headphones. In fact, he's actually out of Vancouver.
No, I know the guy you're talking about.
Yeah. So maybe we can grab him and see about maybe that might be a fun conversation.
Actually, I'd love to have Sean Olive on because I think this is the whole point of Floyd Toole's original project and Sean Olive's project with standardizing that to get, the equipment that you use to mix and master and create the recordings to agree with the equipment that you use to listen to it. And that way you're going to get the best representation of what that sounds like, because that's what they were using at the time. The same reason that they use flat speakers, like they use neutral reference monitors, studio reference monitors, right?
Yeah. Sorry, we went sideways on the
Yeah, I'm getting it going, guys. I'm getting it going. Keep that drum roll. I see a drum roll there.
People are like, "What, Devin? What the heck?"
Yeah.
This is fun. Sorry.
Right. Well, I have a winner here. I just didn't want to show. I didn't want to show the full names just for privacy reasons. But the winner is. Get ready. I have to figure out how to say this. All right. The winner is of the HiFiMAN Sundara giveaway is Kalsonk. I think that's how to say it. Kalsonc. That's the YouTube name. So everybody congratulate Kalsonk on the win. We'll reach out to you and get your contact info, and then we will send you the Sundara. Congratulations.
Congrats. Very awesome.
Yeah. Just keep in mind, Kalsonk, with this, you are going to need an amplifier to run it. But thankfully, as I mentioned in the previous video, there are lots of, and we talked about it today, there are lots of really inexpensive amplifiers out there these days, like a Modi Magni stack, that you'd be able to get for reasonably inexpensive. Chat's going crazy. Congrats.
Yeah. Congrats. Very nice.
Yeah, so that's going to do it for this live stream. But guys, I do want to let you know that we are going to be doing giveaways on a more regular basis. Maybe not exactly perfectly, one a month, but we're aiming for one a month. Maybe depending on where we are and what's going on. But yeah, we're going to aim for doing at least one giveaway per month. So once again, in order to enter into the giveaways, you just have to sign up in the sign up form, be subscribed to the channel. And we may have other little requirements in there depending on what it is that's being given away. But yeah, that basically is it for today's live stream.
Yeah. Very cool. HG 700 pads, please, before you go. I don't know which Daconis.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, guys. Thanks to everybody for tuning in, and thanks to everybody for participating. And once again, congratulations to Kalsonk.
Kalsonk, congrats.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Yeah. Very cool. HG 700